scheme. Got Vanessa Vernon here. We're with RBI Benefits, and we have Ken Spencer on the line with HR Services. So thanks for joining us today. We've done a lot of research about this ERISA compliance solutions and what this means to you as employers, HR managers that are managing the plans for your groups. I just wanted to give a brief introduction for Ken Spencer, and then we'll have an opportunity at the end to ask questions. Also, you can text. There should be a box on your screen where you can text in questions as we go. We can address them that way. But right now you're all muted, and then so we can limit the background noise, and then we'll open it up at the end. This isn't a sales pitch for HR Services. We found a partner. We've been working with Ken for a long time. This is a very inexpensive service, but it's a really big value for what you get. We've contracted with him, so actually we'll take care of the pricing through RBI. We'll get with you on an individual basis and let you know how much it is. It's by how big the group is, so we can go over that later. But it's going to be less, right around no more than $200 a month or a year, sorry, for the services. So with that being said, Ken will give a background on kind of why we need to get this compliance stuff in order right now. Because of Obamacare, there's been a lot of regulations come down on what we're supposed to do as far as having to pass an audit, and we'll get into more about that. But wanted to give a brief introduction for Ken. He's been a HR professional for over 25 years, and like I said, we've worked with him for probably about 10+ years. They specialize in HR solutions to where they can get all the documents in place. So if you were to get audited by the DOL, Department of Labor, everything will be in line. Ken's taught for 8 years at the college level at Westminster. He has a master's degree. We won't say where from because it's the University of Utah, but we won't hold that against him. And then he's certified through the HR Services. SPHR is what you want to look for when you're contracting and working with HR professionals. So he has all the credentials. So with that being said, we'll pass it over to him to go over the ins and outs of what we need to do to get compliant and the resources that are available to you. So, Ken?
Great. Thanks, Shane. I appreciate the introduction, and welcome, everyone. We appreciate your time here this morning. We're going to go through and talk a little bit. First, let's talk about what ERISA is and what it's about. So ERISA stands for the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, and it's administered by the Employee Benefits Security Administration. And they're they're a division of the Department of Labor, everyone's favorite organization, right? Let's talk a little bit who's covered by ERISA first. So everyone who's offering group benefit plans are covered by ERISA, and that could be, and what benefits. It's anyone who's offering medical, dental, life, disability. Even some of the voluntary plans become ERISA covered if you're endorsing them or paying for any of them on a pre-tax basis. So there's a lot of different things that come into play here, and there's a little bit of confusion about who's responsible for the compliance out there. So I just want to touch on that a little bit before we dive into this. A lot of folks think, well, the insurance provider's taking care of this for me, so I don't have to worry about it. Or that's the job of my broker. They're supposed to take care of compliance. In reality, each of you are responsible for your own compliance for your organization. Your broker and people like ourselves, HR Service, we're here as resources to help you and guide you, give you tools, resources, and assistance, but ultimately you're the one that has to make it happen. The providers, they give some information that's helpful, and they give part of the information that's necessary, but again, to complete everything, that comes back to you. You need to make sure that you're taking the steps to make sure you're compliant, and we'll talk about that today. All right, so I asked the question, would you pass an audit? The Department of Labor and the division I talked about that's responsible for ERISA compliance, they've hired thousands of more auditors. They are We've had 3 audited in just the past couple of months, and one of the groups was a 15-person company. And the so no one, it doesn't, size does not matter in this case. It can be a group of 2 or a group of 2,000. They're all targeted for an audit. We had one local group in Ogden that was being audited, and they were a 44-person company. The broker for that organization called and asked, "Why are you auditing this plan?" And their response was, "We're not picking on them. We are auditing all plans by 2018. And so you don't know if you're going to be one of those companies that's going to get your audit letter next week, or if you're a company that's going to get it in 2 years. And so that's the challenge with this. It's not something that you want to sit around and wait. All right, so let's talk about what they're looking for inside the audit, and then we'll talk about some of the things you can do to prepare. So they look for a number of documents. They're going to provide you, so if you're audited, you're going to get a questionnaire. It's probably about a 4-page document, and they're going to ask for a number of things. They look for important documents, plan documents, trust agreements if you have them. They're looking for summary plan descriptions or SPD wraps, and they want that for each of your benefit plans, medical, dental, life, disability, etc. They're also going to ask for what's called a summary of material modification. Let me just briefly explain what that is in case you're not clear. Anytime you have a change in your benefit plans, such as a change in the percent that the employer is paying or a change in the coverage, you're required by ERISA law to provide participants a summary of what's changed and how it's impacting them, when it's occurring, and the details of the change. That's called a summary of material modification. And so you should be providing those anytime you make changes and saving that information so that you can provide that information when you're audited, because like I said, everyone will be audited at some point. They're also asking for things like benefit booklets, certificates of coverage, any information you use to communicate to participants their options and benefits. Now, if 5500 reporting applies to you, they'll ask for your 5500 report as well. And that only applies if you have 100 or more participants in a given plan. So if you have 100 or more participants, you need to be submitting in Form 5500. And that's important that you're doing that. There's some pretty hefty fines if you're not. So just a brief summary of a highlight of some of the things that they're going to ask you for here. And they're going to look for that summary plan description or a wrap document. Let me explain the difference between those two briefly. A summary plan description is what ERISA requires. It provides the participants in the plan details about the coverage, eligibility, what happens upon termination, exclusions, all the details of the plan. It is not the SBC, Summary of Benefits and Coverage, that you get. That was one that we were required to submit out. It's been over the past couple of years we've been having to send those out. That is not an SPD. That's missing a lot of important information to fully constitute a summary plan description. So an Summary of Benefits and Coverage is not a summary plan description. In fact, I have the wrong initials here. I had SDP. It's SPD. I apologize. Versus a wrap document. So what a wrap document is, what a wrap document does is it creates one overall plan document. It also creates a summary plan description for each of your health and welfare benefit plans, medical, dental, life, disability. And what it's doing is the wrap document pulls in the missing insurance company information, and it wraps around the component plan documents, again creating this one overall document. It makes it more simplified to create the required SPDs, and it also makes it easier to communicate and manage, throughout that whole process. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. You're also required, they're going to be looking for various notices that are going out, and we'll talk more about the specific notices. Here's a list of the things that they ask for. They're checking on some of your PPACA compliance, and these are some of the things that RBI, Shane and Blake and Vanessa are really great at helping to make sure that you're keeping up on PPACA. And by the way, I just want to mention RBI Benefits is one of those organizations that's doing more than most organizations you'll see out there, most brokers, because they're making sure that you have the tools and resources to do. They're helping you with some of these compliance items that you don't really see with a lot of other brokers out there. And I mentioned already the 5500, they're looking for that, various record-keeping requirements and documentation, and I'm going to go through some of those with you here in a moment. And by the way, as Shane had mentioned, if you have questions as we go, feel free to click the, there's an option there where you can send me over your question, and I'll stop periodically and answer any questions. So feel free to send over your questions. And then towards the end, I'll actually unmute everyone and we can just talk. So, okay, so some of the requirements for a summary plan description or an SPD. We need to have one, an SPD for each of your plans, or an SPD wrap that encompasses all of them. It's more than what comes from the insurance company. We've talked about that. It's not just the summary of benefits they give you or summary of benefits and coverage that they give you. It's more. It's, you know, that's usually missing a lot of other details, like this whole laundry list. I'm not going to read through them all, but typically they don't cover eligibility, and they don't cover participation requirements, and they don't cover who to contact at your office and what happens upon termination and some of those kinds of things. So we pull in that other information to fully constitute a summary plan description. This information, the summary plan description or the wrap document, must be distributed to all participants every 5 years. New hires need to be given the information within within 90 days. They need to be given all of the summary plan description as well as all their other enrollment information. Again, that's just participants in the plan. And then if you've had to make changes mid-year, then you would give them the summary of material modification. You should give a current SPD or wrap document to all new hires, you know, and we just mentioned that as well. Okay, there's a number of notices that may come into play for you depending on the size of group, depending on the number of employees, how your benefits are set up. Could be pretty much everyone has to do COBRA. So in the state of Utah, there's a mini COBRA if you have less than 20, or there's federal COBRA if you have more than 20 employees. There's other notices such as CHIP, Mental Health and Parity, Newborns, Women's Health and Cancer Rights Act, HIPAA, you know, all of these things. In fact, this notice right here, Medicare Part D, if you haven't already sent that out, it's due by October 15th. So it has to have gone out sometime during the year, but no later than October 15th. So again, these are some of the notices that you need to make sure that you're keeping on top of and taking care of. Now, most of you are pretty good at doing the summary of benefits and coverage and the COBRA. So it's these others, and I'm going to show you a tool that we provide that can help you to create these things here in just a moment. Let's talk about delivering out the SPD documents or SPD wrap or the employee notices. There's 4 main ways that you can deliver these to meet the ERISA requirements. Now you can mail it to them. If you're doing that, it's recommended that you do that within a first-class mail and track what was sent and to whom it was sent to. You can hand deliver it to people. You know, hand it out during open enrollment or hand it out to them in person. If you're doing that, make sure you obtain a receipt. You can also post it to an intranet site or some sort of web-based site where people can access. Separately send them a note explaining that and telling them how to access that and offering to give them a hard copy if you like, or offering to provide them with a computer access. You can send it via email. And this has to, if you do the email, it has to go to employees who regularly use a work email. So if you have like a production staff that does not have their own computers, you wouldn't be able to use that method unless you obtain written authorization from them to send it to a personal email. And we'll provide you with all those forms and documents to help you to implement whichever delivery method that you decide. All right, so if you're prepared for an audit, that would mean you would be taking care of these things. You would make sure you've distributed an SPD or SPD wrap document to all participants in a plan. And so if you haven't, a lot of folks haven't done that at all yet. So so that's why we emphasize this. You complete all the required employee notices, that whole laundry list I just mentioned there, at least the ones that apply to you. You'll notify participants of any changes in their plans that's gone on using the Summary of Material Modification, or I abbreviate here SMM. You'll have filed Form 5500 and have given out the Summary Annual Report, abbreviated as SAR, if that's applicable to you. Again, that's only applicable if you have 100 or more participants in a given plan. And then you'll also establish a good record-keeping system. You should have something set up where you're showing the contributions that employees have made, where it's very clear what you've paid and into the program. You're able to track your benefit payments, participant information. And this is where you even need to make sure you're tracking who's waived coverage. Make sure you're saving that information and you're keeping that in their employee file. Just so we're able to demonstrate that you've met all the requirements, you've made coverage available to people, you've communicated their rights and responsibilities, and you've given them all of their rights. And you're able to demonstrate if you have, anyone who signed up or not signed up. So keep all of that information and material. Now, if you're not doing this and you're not prepared for these ERISA audits, it can be costly. It really depends on the auditor that you get as to how are they going to allow you some time to create and do the things that are missing, or do they just go in and immediately assign penalties? It can be as much as $100 to $110 a day per participant per benefit plan if you've not submitted, provided them with the summary plan descriptions, for example. Or if you're missing other fines may apply, like if you're not doing your COBRA letters and not meeting all of those requirements. Fines can be up to as much as $500,000 in penalties, and in some instances it could even impose civil and criminal penalties as well. So we have to take this stuff serious, and that's why RBI is doing everything they've done to seek out a partner, to research the requirements and work with us to make sure that we're keeping you compliant, because we want you to be able to pass these audits. So let me talk to you briefly now about how we can help you. There's a service that's called Compliance Basics plus SPD Wrap, and that's what Shane referenced in the beginning, and you can get more details from them. In fact, they're going to be sending out some information more on this, but we wanted to take this opportunity to help you understand how we can help you. So this service is going to do a number of things for you. First, you'll be informed on a regular, ongoing basis what you need to know and do every month with a compliance alerts and due date reminders. So every month we're going to tell you, and not just ERISA compliance, this will give you state and federal all employment law changes. So if there's a change in PPACA, if there's a change in Family Medical Leave Act, Fair Labor Standards Act, or whatever, you're going to be notified. You're going to get reminders for all of the compliance due dates, even things like OSHA. There's an OSHA posting requirement in February. We're going to tell you about that ahead of time. We're also, I'll show you here how this service is going to help you with an all-in-one notice to take care of all of those notification requirements that we talked about. And I'll actually demonstrate that service for you. There's also, you're going to receive some best practice articles. We take one topic each month, and then there's a HIPAA kit that's included in this. And so a lot of services that are included in here. Let me go through and show you some of these things. So I mentioned at first, one of the first things you get with this service is we tell you what you need to know and do every month. So once a month, we're going to email to you a legal update, and this will give you again, key actions, due date reminders. It will cover federal compliance changes and issues going on. And it'll also cover state-by-state changes. You just click whichever states where you have employees, and if it's highlighted. So when this article went out, the state of Utah had no changes. We didn't, so it's not highlighted. There would be nothing to look at there. We take once a month. We take one best practice. So the legal update gives you what's going on and what's changed. We have an article that we send out called an HR bulletin, where we take one topic and we give you one best practice every month. So we're not going to bombard you with too many emails. You're going to get two things potentially, every month from us, and we'll take one topic. Like we've covered how to implement HIPAA. We've covered how to set up a wellness plan. Sometimes we cover HR techniques and things as well. Here's an example of one where we talked about how to pass an ERISA audit. So, so this is all part of the service as well. I mentioned before this big list of all the notices. We've created a web-based tool, and I'll actually demonstrate that for you, where you can go in, you answer some simple questions about your company and about your business. And by the way, we give RBI access to this as well. So if you want, if you want their assistance, they can assist with that. But what the service does, you answer the various questions, and then you click a button that says Generate Employee Notices. The system then pulls in which notice applies to your organization, and then it populates the notice, customizing it. So when it comes to you, it comes to you in a ready-to-deliver format to go out to participants. It'll even include your logo, your contact information, everything that's in there ready to go. Now, separately inside the system, you'll see there's another button for Health Exchange Notice. Most of you probably realize that was due back in October of 2013. If you haven't done that yet, you still need to do it. But you still have to give that notice to all new hires. So the difference, the reason we separate these, this upper one with the all-in-one notice, that one goes only to participants in your benefit plan. The Health Exchange Notice goes to everyone. Doesn't matter if they're participating or not, they need to receive that notice. So you'll see there when we go into there that we have that set up. I'm also going to demonstrate for you now. I'm going to go into the system, and I'll show you how our summary plan description wrap document service works. So that is also a web-based tool. And then I'll show you some of these others. So really the only thing we're not helping with in here is the summary of benefits and coverage. That's what you get from the insurance company. So I'm actually going to go in. Let's go back in now, and I will show you how the system works. So I'm going to go into our site at hrserviceinc.com. I'm going to log in as a client. So if I go in the upper right-hand corner where it says Login, I go in here and I'm going to put in my assigned username and password. So when you're setting up, if you're setting up the service, you'll be assigned a username and password. So once I log into the system now I immediately have access to the web-based tools. Keep in mind, two of the items are proactively emailed out to you, that legal update and the best practice bulletin. So now when I log into the system here, I can go under Employee Notices, Employee Notice Report, and this is where I can run my all-in-one notice. So inside of here now, I answer the various questions about my company. 75 employees, how many employees do I have, which states do I do business, and then I answer questions about my medical insurance. I'm not going to go through all of these questions, but just for example, do I offer medical insurance, yes or no? And if so, benefits are offered to, in this example here, only eligible employees, regular full-time employees. So you define that in there. You answer these various questions in here about your medical insurance, and this is an area, if you have some questions that you don't understand, that's something that Shane or Vanessa could assist you with. So once I've answered these various questions, I come down here. If I were to click this Generate Employee Notifications document, in fact, if it's coming, let me check and verify it's coming to me, and then I will actually send it. Okay, so I'm going to generate one. Before I press this button, though, I want to show you that there's also the Health Exchange button right over here, because I would generate one separately. So I run the one, and then it's going to process, and then I come back here and run the other. So I'm going to go ahead and generate an employee notifications document right now. So I just click the button. I have to give, this is a database system. I have to give it a second to process. Okay, now it's processed, and now I'm back to my main screen again. So that will email over to me now, and I'll open that up as soon as the email comes over. Some other things inside this service, just to give you some highlighted items. I have a whole list of possible triggering event type notices I may encounter. So anyone who has 50 or more employees within a 75-mile radius, Family Medical Leave Act applies to you. And then you can come in here, here's all your Family Medical Leave Act forms. And we have template COBRA notice forms, we have HIPAA breach forms, inside of here. So all of that's at your fingertips. You can also go into, and well, I have all of our past legal updates. You can either find them by month, or what's usually the best thing to do is search by legal topic. So you can access any legal topic where you've got information on there. We have a section here for HR forms. Most of you already have these. We've got the latest I-9, W-4. There's a job application, direct deposit form, payroll deduction authorization. You know, whatever kind of things that you need is right there at your fingertips. And these just come out as Word documents. You have access to all of our best practice articles. Under our HR bulletin section, we have every kind of topic that you might imagine, giving you, good instruction, best practices. Now, if you're signed up for the SPD wrap service, and by the way, you can do these things separately. You can do just the compliance basics, or just the SPD, or just the 125 premium only plan, or you can do them all together. And it's, it's cheaper if you're doing everything together. Now, let's say I wanted to go in and I'm going to create a summary plan description wrap document. I click my SPD wrap document button, and then this takes me into our SPD wrap center. Inside of here, oh, here comes that notice document. I'll come back to that in a moment. Inside of the SPD wrap center, it asks me for a number of questions, again, about my company. Anything you've already filled out in that notice section will automatically populate in here. But you answer the various questions inside of here. And the most critical thing here is indicating which benefit plans apply to you. So, so I go through here and check whichever benefit options I have. And then that's what populates down below so that I make sure I'm providing the necessary information. Inside of here, I cover eligibility. I cover what happens when benefits terminate. I cover my open enrollment time period. I cover my plan year. And then I provide details about each of the benefit plans that are included in here. So once you fill out and answer the various questions, then you come down here and you're able to, you can save and exit. Anytime you enter data, you have to save it. Or if you're ready to generate your document, it will save the data automatically. And then you can decide when you're in here if you're sending it, sending it to yourself, or if your broker is assisting you. So if RBI is assisting you, then you can have it sent to them. And Shane, maybe you can address that in a moment. Your preference there, but that's something that you can talk to them about later on. But in any event, when you click generate the SPD wrap document, the document then it would appear at the top of the screen with a note saying that your document is being reviewed and will be processed from our ERISA specialist. So we review all of the information you've submitted in here to make sure it looks like you've filled out everything correctly, that you're not missing anything. And then from there, you'll receive your document within 5 business days. We average about a 2-day turnaround, and we can get it for you right away if you just drop us a note or give us a call. Our toll-free number is right down here at the bottom, and you'll work with Anita Johnson, is our ERISA specialist and customer service manager. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the SPD wrap document. There's also an option in here if you're paying for premiums. If your employees are participating in the cost and they're sharing in the premium cost on that, then if you're doing it on a pre-tax basis, you have to have either a 125 premium only plan document or POP document, or you have to have a full flexible spending account type program, a full cafeteria plan where you have dependent care and health reimbursement type options. So you have to have either of those. So we can provide you with that 125 premium only plan document if you want, as part of this too. So I wanted to show you, I ran that all-in-one notice and had that sent over to me. So I'm going to bring that back over. So this comes to you with instructions on what to do next. It also gives you more details about how to deliver the document. So you click these links and you get more details about that. And then the document itself comes in a ready-to-deliver format that it will have your business logo, your contact information, and then you'll see in here that it covers everything. So like, that applies to you. Now, I said I had a grandfathered plan in the one I just filled out. And then there's my HIPAA notice. Here's my CHIP, Women's Health and Cancer, Newborns, Patient Protection, Health and Wellness Plan, Mental Health and Peri, FMLA, COBRA. So that's the general initial COBRA. This is not the qualifying event COBRA. And then on down to even completing the Medicare Part D. So everything comes in. It's a very easy way. So it pulls in, it knows which notices apply to you, populates them, gives it to you in a ready-to-deliver format. The same thing would occur if we ran an SPD wrap document. When it comes to you, it'll come in a Word document, again, detailing the next steps and what you have to do. Just so you're clear, once you complete an SPD wrap document, you would then attach some of the component plan information to complete that. So what ERISA wants you to receive is all of the insurance details about their coverage, and the wrap document's pulling in the stuff that's missing. So now you have to attach things like the insurance certificates or brochures and rates that explain the details of the coverage. Okay? All right, so let's just recap what we've gone through here so far. So we've talked about the need for everyone to be ready for audits. We've talked about how everyone's going to be audited at some point. Their goal is by 2018. I believe it's a bit of a lofty goal. I don't think they'll be able to achieve that. But nonetheless, that's what they're saying. We've talked about some of the things you need to do to prepare. Preparing SPD wrap documents, making sure you're doing all of your notices, make sure you're implementing all the changes with healthcare reform, 5,500 reports if necessary, creating the documentation system so you're tracking all the information you're using to communicate benefits and showing participation. We've talked about some solutions to help you with this, which is the Compliance Basics plus SPD wrap service. We've talked about how you get 2 emails from us each month, the legal update, due date reminders, and a best practice article. And then you get the web-based tools for the employee notices, forms and documents, access to past legal updates and bulletins that have gone out, and the SPD wrap service itself. Now, all of this information is stored and saved for you on an ongoing basis for the notices, the wrap document, and your 125 POP document if you need that as well. So it makes it handy that you or your broker can go in anytime and edit and update the information that's maintained in there so that you're effectively keeping compliant ongoing. And so most of our clients sign up for the service and stay with the service ongoing. Okay, so Shane, if you are still connected on there, I'll ask you to come back on for a moment. And if you want to talk about the approach on getting started and what you want them to do. Now, as a general rule, if you'll just notify Shane or Vanessa, and this is their phone number, as you probably know, 801-298-0399, and you could contact them and let them know. Now, they're going to be sending around copies of these slides. They're going to be sending around some handouts that give more details about the services we talked about, and we'll even have a link where we've copied and recorded this webinar. Shane, did you want to come back on? Anything you wanted to explain, and that's pretty much everything I had today, unless if anyone has questions too.
Yeah, I'll address a couple things real quick, and we can open it up for some general questions. So the plan is, we went over a lot today. It looks maybe a little intimidating, but this process that Ken has created, the web portal, and then we've been through it a handful of times too. So we're here to help you. We're not going to just let you loose on this. So what we're going to do is send up a follow email that's going to have a printout of the things that we need to populate those forms that Ken talked about. So we'll do this together. We'll work on getting the information, and then we'll send it to you with the link ready to go where we'll enter you in the system, and you can go in there and populate the forms, generate them, and Vanessa is going to be the dedicated. She's the one that has the most experience with the forms and populating them. She'll be the contact for you to help get these forms completed. And then we're here to help you all along the way. So we're going to send that out by tomorrow morning, and then if you could get that information back to us by October 10th, then we'll move forward with you, and then we'll have all the paperwork done and follow up by October 15th, and then you'll be done for the year. So, like I said, it looks a little intimidating up front. It's really not that bad. It is the legal things that you have to do, like with OSHA and tax laws. It's the same along the same lines. You just have to pretty much have these documents on file if you were to get audited, and we're here to help. Dan, can we open it up for a couple basic?
Yeah, so I have unmuted everyone now, so you'll hear a little bit more background noise for a moment. So anyone can feel free. I didn't see. Let's see. I think I had one question. October 10th, as in tomorrow, was a question. So October 15th is the due date for the Medicare Part D. I'm not sure if that's what that question is about. But let me open that up. Does anyone have any questions? You can feel free to speak now, because I've got everyone unmuted.
Great. Everybody understands it. This is awesome. So, yeah, we'll send you an email by tomorrow, October 10th, and if we can get that back by October 15th, that's the date we're shooting for, and then we can get everything, a system in place for you to send it out to your employees and get this thing rolling.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your time here this morning, and we'll look forward to helping you with your compliance, your ERISA, SPDs, notices, and any other HR assistance type help that you might need. So with that, we will end our webinar at this time, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Get hold of Shane or Vanessa if you want to get things started on this, and they'll go through more details with you on the investment and such at that time. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice morning.